Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Okay, welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this session is Mike Bell. He is running for the 7th Legislative District, Position 2. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
We discovered that we had crossed paths, although not really met, in our past lives as an architect and as a CPA. So it's nice to see you again, and welcome you to the program. Glad you could come into Spokane for the interview.
Thank you.
This is just all about getting acquainted and starting with where'd you grow up and go to school in your early years?
Well, I need to tell everybody I've had such a wonderful life, and it started out at the beginning. I was born just outside of Camp Pendleton in California. My dad was a career Marine, and I was born there, and I was raised just outside of Cherry Point, North Carolina. My dad was in the Marine Air Wing, and when I was growing up, he was gone quite a bit. Did aircraft carrier duty, one of the probably most dangerous jobs you can do. And, you know, as I was growing up, he really emphasized doing a good job. If he didn't do a good job, somebody paid for it. And so that was drummed into me when I was growing up. We didn't have a lot, but we did have a good work ethic and a high moral standard. My mom was a churchgoer, and you have to do right by everybody and find a job that you can help people, and so that was sort of my youth.
We've had a number of candidates who've come out of a military family background, and those are some common themes that have been cited by a lot of them. I'm going to skip to your Navy corpsman hat that you brought, and that must be part of your post high school education. Was in the U.S. Navy?
Well, I went to school for a couple of years studying engineering. I was good at math, and after 2 years, I decided it wasn't working. I wasn't going to waste my parents' money or my time anymore. So Vietnam War was going on. I felt an obligation to serve my country, and so I agreed to join the Navy and be a corpsman. And I was fully expecting to be assigned to the Marine Division and end up in Vietnam. And the Navy had different plans. I had an engineering background, and so they assigned me to the submarine service. I agreed to do that. And I found the submarine service fascinating. I mean, the technology was just amazing. They had some of the first GPS devices, although they would fill up this room with something that could tell you within a half a mile of where you're at.
Now your phone does that.
That's right. That's right. You know, what other job would you have where you could follow a Russian nuclear submarine for 3 or 4 weeks and basically just spy on them? And I got an opportunity to do that. But as a corpsman, I worked in the Submarine Medical Center in an outpatient clinic for quite a bit, and the emergency room every 4th day. And I thoroughly enjoyed the clinical side, and so that was my career. The submarine service was an adventure. It was dangerous. The Navy had lost 2 nuclear-powered submarines in the previous 10 years, and so we actually got the equivalent of combat pay when I was serving on the sub. But once I left the Navy, I thought I was pretty much done with healthcare, and I got an accounting degree, passed the CPA exam the first time. And the first job I got with a Big 8 accounting firm, they had hospitals to work with and nobody that knew anything about hospitals. So I got thrown into the deep end right off the bat, and you know, as my mom would say, it was meant to be.
Getting thrown off the deep end sounds appropriate for a submariner.
It does. Well, it's interesting. In a sub, there's a lot of close camaraderie. It's sink or swim, all of you or none. And so I got submarine qualified, and which means you have to know every inch of a sub, every pipe, every valve, everything. And if there's an issue that comes up, you have to, whoever's closest to that has to deal with it. So it was amazing, my naval career. And after I got out, while I was going to school, I was in the Navy Reserves, and I was in a MASH unit, a mobile surgical unit. So that was kind of fun too.
Oh. That's a fascinating story. I didn't know that. That's interesting details about the submarine service.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you sharing that. So as part of that Navy, one of the things about work experience and travel experiences is they do shape how you look at the world. Is there some travel experience that went along with that gave you some new insights?
I thought I was going to see a lot of the world when I was in the Navy, and I saw Norfolk, Virginia for a year, which that's nothing to brag about. New London, Groton, Connecticut, which is New London, Connecticut. That was a great place to be stationed. New England was great. I became a Red Sox fan while I was there, and antiquing throughout New England was wonderful. There was always something to do there, and concerts. We had venues within a mile of Groton, Connecticut, where you could pick up any musical act that you wanted, and so it was just amazing place to be.
Well, I know that we met when your company was doing a lot of work with critical access hospitals. How did you end up back here in the Northwest from Connecticut and all those other places?
Well, after I graduated, I worked with a Big 8 accounting firm for a few years and got pulled back into healthcare, and then I worked with Billings Deaconess Hospital for several years. My first wife was from Billings, and we had talked about moving back. I got recruited here by a regional accounting firm that needed a healthcare manager, and so I worked with them for about 6 years, and then I decided I can do a better job if I run the show, if I'm the person making the decisions. So I opened up my own accounting practice. I had another accountant that started with me, and after 20 years, we had 20 employees, worked with about 100 hospitals in 14 states and 150 clinics and nursing homes and home health agencies. I mean, that was a dream come true when I got my accounting degree, was have a CPA practice working in healthcare and doing it full time, and it was just it was a dream. So interestingly enough, in the 7th District, at the time I retired, there was not one hospital, nursing home, or clinic in the 7th District that I hadn't worked with at one time or another. And we did a lot of work too outside of the normal accounting thing. Problem solving was our big issue, and one of the biggest problems with the small rural hospitals, but they didn't have the resources they needed to meet the needs of the community. So they were operating here. We elevated them to a higher level. We found money that they didn't know was available to them. We helped them with operating efficiency. We got them to the point that they were successful and had the resources they needed. I helped set up the Washington Rural Health Clinic Association. It's the rural health clinics are small rural hospitals, small rural clinics that they can get paid 50% more than regular clinics just by applying for that. And we were instrumental in getting that program off the ground.
Well, I've gotten the signal that I have to try and help you wrap this up in the next minute and a half.
Okay.
The last question is, I think that kind of answers something about what prompted you to volunteer for elected office was your experience with the healthcare system. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That's true.
And so this is your opportunity to make your pitch. Why should voters choose you? How do you see the duties of this elected office?
Well, first of all, let me just say I don't need a job. The accounting profession was very good to me. But I do need a good legislator, and right now we have 3 legislators in the 7th District that I don't think are doing an adequate job. They claim that jobs are important to them, and yet our district has higher, the unemployment rate is going up instead of down. At a time when the state's unemployment rate is going down and the nationwide rate is going down, I've never been willing to settle for absolute bare minimum, and I think that's what we're getting out of our legislators right now. I'd like to be able to identify the problems in the district, solve the problems in the district. Some of them are going to require that we get with both Democrats and Republicans to solve these problems, because I've not been happy with some of the things of the legislature either. The education system, when you've got a court that has to identify what is the absolute bare minimum funding for K through 12, and then it takes years for the Democrats and Republicans to figure it out, there's something wrong with the system. And so I feel I can do a much better job than who we have now, and I've got the skills and I've got the willingness to do it. And I'd be willing to offer my time if people would just elect me.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today, and good luck, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Have fun this summer.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.